Hello, everybody, and welcome to our amazing podcast, The Harvest Season. My name is Rochelle.
And my name is Al.
And we're here today to talk about farming games.
Woo!
That was so unenthusiastic.
Woo!
Woo!
Yeah. Is that more enthusiastic for you?
I'm
better?
clearly the more energetic of the two.
I think that is going to be very clear throughout, well, everything, that you will be more enthusiastic than me. But that doesn't mean I'm not excited. It just means that I'm more of a reserved person. But that's probably partly due to our different backgrounds and cultures.
Probably. Do you want to talk about us, or first we should talk about what we're going to do with this podcast?
Yeah, let's have a chat about what the podcast is first, so that people know what they're getting themselves in for.
All right. So, if you couldn't tell already, we're here to talk about the best kind of video games, farming games. No one's going to take me seriously when I call farming games the best kind of video games.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about farming games, but I guess we're gonna talk about things that people might not consider farming games as well. There's going to be some other things, but there's always going to be some sort of farming element to the games that we chat about. So we should probably talk about what makes a farming game.
So yeah, I think what most people think of when you say farming games is probably going to be Harvest Moon. For a lot of veteran farming game players, that is like the quintessential farming game. So every Harvest Moon game basically starts with you, through one means or another, acquire a farm out in the country, and you grow crops, and you raise animals, and you sell vegetables and milk, and make friends with the villagers. I think that's kind of the key and most important part, where it's like, there's a place, you're farming, you're on a farm, there's crops, there's animals, you do things with that. And then from there, I think things kind of branch out. I would argue that a lot of people think it's not really a farming sim if you don't have a romance option to it, which I don't think is necessary personally, but I know that a lot of people would define it that way because that's kind of how Harvest Moon has been since the beginning, with one exception, and people get mad about it. But there's also other things that are sometimes involved, like mining, and I don't know, there's a lot of like fantasy leaning ones that have like going and fighting monsters and things like that I think would also count. But I think for the purpose of this podcast, are we aiming more for you do the farming with the animals and the crops kind of thing is like the main thing that defines a game as a farming game?
Yeah, I think so. I certainly wouldn't require a romance element to define something as a farming game. I think it can add a lot to these games, and we'll probably be discussing that quite a bit in our discussions about different games. But I don't think it's required. I think that you can have plenty fun with these games without doing that, because especially you don't even need to go through that part of the game in games that have them anyway. You can completely ignore it if you want. So to require that in a farming game, I think would unnecessarily restrict us.
I agree with that, and I think that I think there are games that do and don't do that, and people do and don't dislike them for different reasons. Like I believe it's Harvest Moon Save the Homeland, where there was no romance whatsoever, and people hated it. But then there's also like, what is it? I actually believe it's Harvest Moon Another Wonderful Life, where you have to get married by a certain time, and people don't like that. Like, there's no way to win. But I definitely would say it is not the focus of any farming game whatsoever. So we'll talk about it, but that's not how we're going to define a farming game. If you want a romance sim, go to the Romance Sim podcast. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's out there.
Yes, go download Dream Daddy if you want a...
I totally forgot about Dream Daddy until this very moment.
I have not played it myself, but I have seen a lot about it and read about people playing it. I've seen a lot of the screenshots and
I feel like I should. Anyway, we're a farming sim podcast, not a Dream Daddy podcast.
Yet. Anyway.
So, since we're defining farming games as where you mostly farm with the crops and the animals, we're going to be doing a lot of obvious games. We're going to be doing Harvest Moon games, Rune Factory, because I love Rune Factory. We're going to branch into things like Stardew Valley, of course, because how can you not? And other upcoming games that are looking really exciting. But we're also, I think, every now and then going to dip into games that you wouldn't necessarily think of as farming games, but which have farming elements, and talk about how that interacts with games outside of the genre. That was somewhere on the list, right?
Yes, yeah, those were on the list. I guess examples of that sort of thing, I think, were Minecraft, where you have some farming elements to it, but it's not by any stretch of the imagination a farming game. There, I guess, there was World of Warcraft, which I've personally not played very much, but I believe there was some farming elements to that as well. And I think it's interesting to take these and compare the farming elements to how a typical farming simulator would run. And yeah, we're going to talk a whole lot about a whole lot of farming, so I hope everybody's ready for it. If you don't like farming in games, probably not the podcast for you.
Probably not.
But maybe try it, and maybe you might get interested that way.
Or maybe the listeners are just listening because they love the sound of our voices.
Maybe that. Who knows?
Speaking of our voices, though, A+, double A+, transition right there. Very proud of that one.
It was very good. You get points for that one.
Yeah. For this first episode, we thought maybe you'd like to know who's going to be talking to you. You, specifically, listening right now.
What, me?
No, the listeners, Al.
Oh, sorry.
So we're going to tell you a little bit about who we are and our relationship with farming games, so that when we go into regular episodes, you're not just like, what is going on? Who are these people? Why is Rochelle so excited? I get very excited. So would you like to go first, Al?
No, I think you should go first, because if I go first, I think it might taint people's view of me, and they'll understand when we get into that. So I think you should start off with your vast experience of farming games.
All right. So my name is Rochelle. I am really, really, really into farming games. I have 3 favorite game series or genres, I guess. Farming games, number 1. No matter what I've said to you anywhere else in my life, farming games are my favorite. I have a kind of a complicated history with farming games, though. The first game I ever played was Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life for the GameCube. And I believe I was but a wee child. I'm pretty sure I was in middle school or high school, beginning of high school when I first played it. And I actually borrowed it from a friend. And then when I went to return it, he got very embarrassed. It was a guy friend, and he got very embarrassed, and he was like, oh, well, I didn't actually play that game. I just have it because my mom got it for me, and it's a girl game, and it's dumb. And I don't know if you can tell from my voice. I am a lady. I am a lady playing video games. And at that time in my life, I was like, okay, if I'm going to be a serious gamer, I have to fit in with the gamer guys, which means I can't play girly games. So when my friend was all embarrassed about this farming game that I had accidentally borrowed and really enjoyed, I was like, oh, farming games are girly games, so I can't play them if I want to be a quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes, you can't see it, a real gamer. So for a lot of years, I kind of put that aside, and then I became an adult, and then I realized that people are dumb and sexism is dumb, and I can play whatever games I want and still be a real gamer. One of the first things I did was I went back to games that I had enjoyed but thought I wasn't allowed to play to be a real gamer. And the first game I went back to was Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life. And then I rekindled this super intense love of farming sims. And since then, I have played so many farming games. I cannot even tell you. I have played everything. If you think it's a farming sim, I have probably played it. If you don't think it's a farming sim, I have probably played it anyway. It's definitely my favorite genre of game. It brings me the most peace and happiness, no matter what anybody says. And I consider it like a low-key passion of mine. So I am very aggressive in my love of these games, as I'm sure you will hear in the future.
It's almost like there's a reason we're starting a podcast about them.
It's almost like we're doing it because we love the games. And that's my history with farming games, and I'm excited to talk about them. Do you want to talk about your history with farming games, Al?
Yeah, let's go for that then. So, I am quite a new person to farming games. I guess probably 18 months ago, I hadn't really played any farming games. Not for lack of enjoying the game, but just having never actually tried any of them. My childhood was mostly playing Pokemon and games like Sonic and stuff like that, and I just never came across any farming games until I bought the Switch. And of course, at the beginning of the Switch, there were not very many games on the Switch, and I had finished Zelda. I'd gotten all I want out of that. I'd finished, completed Mario Kart again. Wasn't that interested in most of the other games, and saw that there was this game that everyone was raving about called Stardew Valley. So I was like, all right, fine, let's go for it. I'm pretty sure you, Rochelle, were part of the group of people convincing me to try it out. So I was like, that's fine. It was about 10 quid or something like that. And so I bought it, played it on my Switch, and got absolutely hooked. It was ridiculous how quickly I got sucked into that world. I told
you were going to love
it. It was ridiculous how, you'd be sitting there at night and playing just another day, and by the time you'd realised it was like 11, 12 at night, and I'm normally in bed by like 10. So it was quite ridiculous how much I enjoyed it. So obviously I've had to, kind of look at other games and stuff. So I am very definitely the noob on this podcast, but my enthusiasm for it is definitely there. I really do enjoy these games. I have been playing some other games that Rochelle has recommended to me, and we have a list that is, I kid you not, what is this, about 40 games long or something, this list we've made up?
You think it's 40 games. It's a number of pages in a document.
It is a number of pages. It is 3 pages long.
Remember when I said every game you can think of and then some? I meant it.
She really was meaning it. There are games on this that I had never even heard of. And there's also, as you mentioned, a number of games that I'm sure we'll chat about at the end of the episode that are upcoming, that look really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's my history with farming games. Not very much.
But it's good. We have a nice...
I love them.
We have
all
a nice
the same.
balance. I can be the veteran and I can list out stats and information that is just like hidden esoteric knowledge that nobody really needs to know. And you can be like, what in the world are you talking about? I just want to plant corn. Like, it'll be perfect. But I definitely think there's a magic to I think part of the reason why I'm really into farming games is there's like a magic to it. Where like you were saying, like you get so sucked in and it seems so simple. Like you wake up and you water your crops and you pet your cows and maybe you go talk to some villagers, and it seems like that's something that's simple that shouldn't really be like a really good game or something, but there's a magic to it. Okay, I'm going to pronounce this wrong. So if anyone can correct me, but there's this genre that I think mostly comes out of Japan where it's something like Iyashike or something like that. I know in my heart of hearts that's wrong, and I apologize. Okay, Rochelle from the future here. I did some research into how to pronounce this word, and if I pronounce it wrong still, I apologize. This is a reflection upon me and not upon the kind and wonderful people who were trying to teach me how Japanese works on the fly. But I'm pretty sure this word is pronounced something like Iyashike or Yashike. I'm doing my best. I'm sorry. I will continue to learn. But it's this genre of like things that are supposed to be non-confrontational and like warm and comforting and healing. And I think there's like definitely that sense the sense of that in farming games where it's like, this seems like it should be boring because we're taught that video games are supposed to be shooting people up and all the like epic adventures. But instead, you just have this very calm, this very warm, this very healing experience of, I'm just going to grow some crops and talk to some humans. And I think that is surprisingly wonderful and magical, especially in today's world.
Yeah, to me, I think gaming has always been an escape. You know, I want to spend some time not thinking about the world, whether that's, you know, I've had a rubbish day, whether that's I can't deal with the stresses of life, whether that's just, I just want to do something. Like we all have escapes from life, you know. For some people that's gaming, for some people that's books, for some people that's films, for some people it's, you know, dreaming, whatever. And for a lot of games, it would be a storyline and putting yourself in somebody else's life and going through that story. And for others, it's just the monotony of, and basically kind of lulling your brain into forgetting everything else by going, nothing matters, just think about this monotonous task that you're doing. And that can be really relaxing. And it doesn't make any sense, but I love it.
I agree, 100%. So that's us. I'm sure you'll learn more about us as time goes by, and we'll become the best of podcaster/listener friends.
So what games what are your favourite games, farming games, overall?
Oh gosh, this is a hard one. So
I'll give you 3, you can have 3 top. You don't have to order them.
Okay, perfect. Because I was going to say I was going to do a top 3. I was going to say I was going to do a top 3, no matter what you said. So I'm going to do this. Here's my top 3. I'm going to give an honorary top 3 position to Harvest Moon, Another Wonderful Life, which is that first game that I played. It's the girl version. Remember the time when you had to buy a separate game to be a girl? Those were the days. So for most of the history of Harvest Moon, there's this history of you can always play as your character is a man, and you better just get over that. But then at a certain point, they realized girls like this game for some reason because girls can play video games. So they started making so you'd have A Wonderful Life, which is the boy version, and then Another Wonderful Life, which is the girl version. And they did that for a long time. And Another Wonderful Life was really fun. It was that first game I ever played that I really enjoyed. Looking back on it now, it's not the greatest game in the world, but I loved it so much at the time. And I'm just going to say the girl version was better. There was awesome cheat codes in that one. I'm sure we'll talk about that eventually. So I'm going to give one position to that. And then I'm going to say for now, in this present moment, in October of 2018, I'm going to say my favorite games is a very strong tie between Story of Seasons, Trio of Towns, and Stardew Valley. And I think that the reason is because I consider both to be almost perfect farming games for me. They kind of both have everything I love, and while they both have a little problem here and there, I love them both very much for different reasons. And if they came together and had a love child of a game, it would be the perfect farming game. So those are my favorite games. What are your favorite games?
Well, so this is, and I only realised this just before you answered the question. This question doesn't really make a huge amount of sense for me because of the few games that I've played at this point. So I'll just go for one, which I think has to be Stardew Valley. It might be because it was the first one I played. It might be because it is, I just like it more. I think we'll probably come to unpack why I like the game over a few episodes. But yeah, I think out of the ones that I've played so far, Stardew is definitely the favourite. Although there are things that I like more about some other games, which we will definitely come to when we chat about those ones in future episodes.
For sure. Stardew is such a good game. We'll talk about it. Not this episode.
Not this episode.
This is just our boring intro episode to be episode 1 in the list.
Leading on from your favourite game, what game are you currently playing, Rochelle?
Oh, let me tell you, right now, I am playing Stardew Valley. I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, I started a new farm. I do this routinely. I have many farms. I started a new farm, but I intentionally decided I'm going to make all of the choices I never make. So like I did a different farm map. I chose different choices for all the choices you can make. I am doing disturbingly well in this game. We'll talk about the details, but I'm sure listeners who have played will get it right now. But like, I have 2 items before I complete the community center, and I'm still in winter of year 1. Like, I have completed so much stuff. It's not even funny. I have never done this well in a farming game before. In year 1, I found a dinosaur egg for the first time in my entire history of playing Stardew Valley. It's going really great.
So you say you're doing so much better, but are you enjoying it more or less?
Oh, I'm having so much fun.
Okay. Well, that's what matters then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's, if you're challenging yourself but also still enjoying it, then that's the ideal.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, because I'm very much a veteran, I have put like probably thousands of hours into playing farming sims. And once you get that far into a game, it can get kind of like, sometimes, think about this with Pokemon. I love Pokemon. I don't know if the listeners know that. I love Pokemon so much. I've played so much Pokemon. But there are parts of Pokemon, like the Pokemon game, that I am so bored with at this point. Like, I've done it so much, and I don't want to do it anymore. It's boring. And it's really easy for games you play for a long time to get that way. And so the fact that, like, every now and then I'll, like, challenge myself. I'll do things like this where I say, I'm going to make all the opposite choices this time. Or, like, I'm going to try and do it this other way or something like that. That adds a little spice to it. And the fact that I can still do that and still have other things I can do to make these games fun after so many hours of putting into it is pretty amazing, in my humble opinion.
That's pretty cool. Well, what I'm playing currently is, on your advice, I am playing Trio of Towns, which is, I'm certainly enjoying it. I'm not enjoying it as much as I enjoyed Stardew, which when we have an episode on Story of Seasons, we will discuss why. But it took me a while to get started in it, but I'm certainly in the point of playing every day just now, multiple days. So we're going good. I am nearly married. I think I've just got one more level to go before I can get married. And I am partially through the 3rd farming tips and just coming to the end of fall year 1. So I think I'm doing pretty well. But we'll see how things go with that. So that's what I'm currently playing.
You're doing super well. I'm proud of you. I'm so glad that you're playing Trio of Towns. Everybody all gets on board for Stardew Valley, and I'm like, everyone needs to play Trio of Towns. It's also a really good game.
Well, too many people are like one game wonders. They play the one game in a genre of games, and then they'll move on to something else.
Yeah, and I think it also doesn't help. I think Trio of Towns is actually an older game. It's for the 3DS. Yeah. It came out a number of years ago, so...
Well, exactly. I think it's the first thing I've played on my 3DS, other than just occasional Pokemon since the Switch came out. Well, and once I'm finished, I'll be probably putting it away and going back to the Switch again.
Yeah, which is okay.
I forgot how bad the battery was on the 3DS.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's talk about some games we're excited for, because I will say one game I'm excited for that's coming up is that we don't know when it's going to be released, but we know as a fact there's going to be a Story of Seasons game on the Switch.
Oh, that's exciting.
Very.
Do we know anything about it apart from that it's on the Switch?
No.
Cool.
We know nothing. We just know, like, there was a graphic put out of, like, here's all the games that are going to be coming to Switch, that are planned to be coming to Switch. And it was just one of the many things was Stardew Valley. Not Stardew Valley.
Nope.
Was Story of Seasons. There's too many S's. There's too many S's.
Words are difficult, as we mentioned.
Words are so hard.
Yeah, I guess I believe you are excited about this as well, but I'm quite excited about Ooblets coming out.
I am so excited for Ooblets. You don't even know.
If people don't know what that is, it is a kind of cross between a farming game and a creature collection game. Think Pokemon or something like that.
I have heard it adequately described as a cross between Harvest Moon, Pokemon, and Animal Crossing. which those are my 3 favorite game series. So I'm super excited.
It does look really great. I'm following the developer on Twitter, and they keep posting out really interesting new things. There was did you see the screen when you get a new creature that's just been finalized?
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, I'll send you that after we finish recording, but it is fantastic. It is so cheesy and so adorable. It is ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. My farming and monster collecting heart. I'm so excited.
And there are a couple others that I'm quite looking forward to. There's one that called World's Dawn, which looks quite interesting, which I don't think you'd heard of before I mentioned it. I can't remember when that comes out and what platforms, but it looked quite interesting. And of course, I'm also looking forward to the Stardew multiplayer on Switch, because I'm not really playing Stardew on PC at all, so I'm looking forward to getting that on the Switch. It should hopefully be soon. I believe it's in QA now, so
yeah,
be soon.
We're real close to it. People are probably listening in the future and they're like, it's been out for months, you guys. No, it's October of 2018 when we are recording this. It's not out yet. And I'm so excited because I have played a little bit of it on the PC, and it's so fun to farm with your friends. We'll talk about it later. We'll have an episode on Stardew Valley and we'll talk about the multiplayer stuff. I'm also looking forward to Garden Paws. I don't know if you've seen that, which
I've seen a little bit about it, yeah.
I feel like the theme of games I'm looking forward to is combos of games I already love. So it's very much like, it looks very much like it's kind of like an Animal Crossing farming sim mix where like you farm and you go around and you talk to people, but you're also like a cute little animal. It looks so cute. So that's the other game I'm really, really excited for.
Well, that sounds good. I think that's probably everything we want for this first episode, unless there's anything that I've missed.
I mean, not that I can think of. And if we missed anything, we'll probably cover it in another episode anyway.
Great. Well, this is where I guess we let people know where they can find us. Obviously, if you found the podcast, you probably know where it is, but our website is harvestseason.club, and you can probably find us on, well, podcast players. That's where you get podcasts from.
On your preferred method of podcast catching.
Rochelle, where can people find you on the internet?
I suppose if you want to talk to me, you can go to my Twitter, which is at Miss Delaney, MISSDELL. That's 2 L's. People spell it with 1. You're never going to find me. DELLANEY. Tweet at me, talk to me. I promise I'll talk back. Where can we find you, Al?
You can find me also on Twitter at TheScottBot. That's Scott with 1 T. It's a nationality rather than a name.
We never told people that you're from Scotland.
I think it's probably obvious. I mean, I know I've not got the strongest accent, but I think it's pretty obviously Scottish. And if you don't recognise my accent as being Scottish, telling you it's from Scotland probably won't help you, because I assume you don't know where Scotland is.
Aw, hey, be nice. We have very good, smart listeners.
Yes, we do. But Scotland is quite insignificant on the world stage.
Be nice to yourself.
I can't win. Either I big Scotland up too much or too much down. Anyway, I think that's everything for this episode.
Yep, sounds good to me. So, I guess until next time, have a good harvest.
Yeah.
Woo.